All right, good evening, everyone. Thanks, Anaha, for introducing us. Hi, my name is Jeffrey. I'm from the Singapore Management University, the Office of Undergrad Admissions. Once again, thank you for joining us this evening. I know it's quite a long day, and especially it's a Monday evening, so some of you probably are quite tired and hopefully all of you have your dinner as well, right? So this is what's going to happen for this evening. I will be giving you a very quick glimpse of what SMU has to offer, as well as what are the exciting programs that you can look forward to. Thereafter, we actually have Isabel. Isabel is our current fourth-year student who is doing the Bachelor of Business Management in SMU. Formerly, she was from Immaculate Conception Academy from Manila as well. So she will be here to answer any questions that you have regards to student life. Perhaps you can ask her like things like why she decided to choose SMU or why she chose to come to Singapore to study later on. Okay, so I'll be happy to take on any questions later on as well at the end of my presentation. Right. So without much further ado, we shall start the presentation right now. Just give me a moment. All right, can everyone see my slides?
Yep.
Very cool. All right, great. Okay. Great. Right. So this is our Singapore Management University. In fact, the background that you see is from our School of Law Library. Is actually the background, and these are all our SMU students as well. So I'm sure most of you will probably have been to Singapore before, even before COVID. But if you have not, all right, I'm sure Singapore will also be a familiar country to you. We are definitely a global city, although we are like really a very small dot on the global map. I can safely say that the food, the life in Singapore is pretty exciting and very vibrant. All right, you can look forward to any kind of food, be it like your Filipinos food meals, or even any kind of cuisine. Right, you can find it in Singapore. And SMU especially, we are the only university in Singapore that has the campuses right in the heart of the city. Now, and what does this mean? It means that when you come to Singapore and study in SMU, no matter where you stay in Singapore, traveling is super convenient. We are the only university that is also connected by 4 train stations. We call it the MRT stations. Hence, if you come to school early in the morning or even to attend night classes, is super convenient for you. I think most importantly as well, life in the city is super vibrant. Besides good food, shopping, there are also museums, even national libraries, right? You can get a lot of resources at your fingertips. And being in the heart of the CBD, it means the Central Business District. We have an advantage over some of the other universities. This is the reason why we always often invite CEOs and industry partners from the business district to come meet our students, for example, during lunchtime, to give lunchtime talk or lunchtime seminars and so on. Right. So yeah, our students definitely had the benefit of meeting all these industry professionals very frequently. All right. In the recent of the World Economic Forums, you realize that nowadays studying is not just for the sake of studying. All of us, we know that going to a university, main objective, of course, is to get a good career, and of course to get a good, strong foundation in the knowledge that we want to acquire, right? The career that we want to pursue. But I think more importantly now in the World Economic Forum and the leaders have identified that there are very important skills that some of the graduates from other universities are lacking. For example, all of us are now living in a very challenging period, like with things like environmental issues and of course medical issues like COVID. So we do really need graduates to be able to analyze, have analytical thinking, able to solve complex problems, all right, think critically, and of course, given a very short time frame, they must come up with creative solutions, take initiative, and so on. So in SMU, we are very mindful of the skill set. Now, we do not want to equip our graduates with just knowledge, right? If you ask me very frankly, for example, if you take a simple economics knowledge, right, microeconomics, demand and supply, no matter which university you go to, you will definitely get more or less the very same kind of knowledge. You can't run away from demand and supply theory, for example. But what makes SMU different is because we prepare our students really to be future leaders and to be graduates who are really ready to face the challenges of the world upon graduation. So we have things like a guarantee of a second major, We have very small class sizes, which I'll touch on a little bit later. Real world learning, entrepreneurship major, leadership team building module, the core curriculum, and of course the interactive pedagogy and so on, right? Where we equip with all students with all these skills. Now, just a very quick sharing. Always like to share what some of our graduates are doing. Some of you probably may not be familiar, but I always like to this famous business by Lai Cheng-wen, which is on the top left. He's actually the co-founder and CEO of Ninja Van. For those who next time who've been to Singapore, Ninja Van is actually a very, very big business right now in Singapore. They are doing delivery. As you know, especially in such COVID time, a lot of businesses has already gone online, right? And Ninja Van is one of those businesses that is doing a lot of delivery and so forth, right? So he's actually a very successful SMU graduate as well. And of course, there's other graduates who have set up their own businesses. We even have graduates who want to set up social media platforms. If you have time to Google things like SGAG, it's actually by one of our students. The CEO is currently one of our SMU graduate as well. Okay. All right, so what is SMU different? Now I'm going to touch very quickly on my presentation, not to bore you down with too much details, because most of the details can be found on the internet. But I will be touching a bit on things like global exposure. Importantly, what does it mean by major? I'm sure all of you have heard things like double degrees, majors, minors, and so on. So what are the differences? And of course, SMU has very small class sizes. And because to be very honest, in SMU, in terms of community, each year we take in about 2,000 over undergraduates for each year. Our community is relatively smaller if you compare to the other universities in Singapore. But this has an advantage because it allows us to develop a really warm and supportive peer community among the faculty, the admin staff, and of course the students as well. And of course, I'll touch a little bit on the SMU core curriculum, how it is being used to prepare our students to be future ready. And the exciting thing about internships, community surveys, and of course, how we prepare you for your career. Now, first of all, let me touch on what are the programs that are available in SMU. We have the Bachelor of Accountancy, the Bachelor of Business Management, the Bachelor of Law, Social Sciences, and in the Bachelor of Social Sciences, we have this very special degree called the Politics, Law, and Economics, whereby we combine 3 different specializations, what we call the majors, in political science, law, and economics together. Now, this degree does not allow you to become a lawyer when you graduate, but it equips you with the legal knowledge as well, all right? And of course, we have the Bachelor of Science, Economics. So if you're someone who loves quantitative subjects like calculus, you're someone who loves to do like actuarial science, risk management, or mathematics, statistics, the Bachelor of Science, Economics program will be very good for you. And for those who are very IT savvy, who love very techy stuff, you can go for the Bachelor of Science Information Systems. Under the Bachelor of Science Information Systems, there's also another subset of a degree called the Smart City Management and Technology. So we look at things such as urban planning, all right? And of course, we have the Bachelor of Science, which is the computer science. And we have a new degree recently just launched 2 years ago, which is Computing and Law. Similar to the Politics, Law, and Economics degree, the Computing and Law is not a law degree, but increasingly, what happened is we are all governed by cyber world now, right? And increasing, especially in COVID, more and more things are actually going online. And we do need people who are experts in terms of programming, in terms of having the IT knowledge, but as well as people who are familiar with the law, right? For example, like how do you protect personal data, for example, from being misused, things like cyber attacks and so forth. All right, so we need people with law as well as the IT skills. Hence, this degree, Computing and Law, was developed. Once again, Computing and Law is not a law degree, so it does not allow you to become a lawyer when you graduate. But having said that, degrees like Computing and Law and the Politics, Law, and Economics do allow you to have an opportunity to pursue a Juris Doctor program, which is a postgraduate law degree after you graduate from this program. And typically, the Juris Doctor program will take at least about 2 to 3 years to complete. So students who are already graduated with the Computing and Law or the Politics, Law, and Economics degree can have a shortened postgraduate law degree. So essentially, you can complete the degree, your Juris Doctor, in probably about 1.5 years instead of the normal 2 or 3 years, right? And of course, all our degrees are direct meritorious honors, which means typically it's about average on about 4 years program. All right, and when you graduate with honors. And of course, the class of honors it really depends on the GPA that you attain. And for us, we follow the US style of naming the honors like magna cum laude and so forth, right? Right, so for our students, when you do join SMU, when you apply to SMU, you have the opportunity of deciding whether you want to do a single degree or a double degree. Now, what does this mean by double degree? A double degree essentially means that you do 2 degrees at the same time during a study in SMU. And when you graduate 2 degree schools. So for example, if you are doing Bachelor of Law, and for example, Bachelor of Accountancy, right? So when you graduate, essentially you have 2 degrees in accountancy and law, and you can choose to decide whether you want to become a lawyer, all right, or you want to go on to become a certified accountant, for example, right? So 2 different degrees. Now, but of course, having said that, double degrees can be quite challenging, and usually it takes up a bit more time for you to really prepare academically. So what does most SMU students actually do is they do a single degree, but they couple, right, their degree with a second major. Now, what is major? So major essentially, so what major means is actually like a specialization. So let me give you an example. For example, in the School of Business, all right, we do have like 7 different kind of majors, like operations management, you have marketing, finance, communications management, and so on. Right. So as a business student, for example, your first major will definitely come from your school. So let's say I am a business student, I can choose my first major to do marketing. Now, all SMU students can do a second major, right, to supplement your degree. So for example, besides doing marketing, I can do my second major from another school. For example, psychology from a School of Social Science. Now, this is a very useful combination and it's a very powerful. Not only it gives you an edge, all right, when you apply for a job in future when you graduate, and of course, it gives you a much more variety of job and career options. It also, most importantly, it strengthens your core specialization, which is your first major. So again, let's go back to the same example that I've given you earlier. If I'm doing marketing and I have a second major in psychology, having a second major in psychology allows me to understand, for example, consumers' behavior much more in depth. I will be able to do more effective consumer research, right? Because I understand how human thinks, how human reacts, right? So in that way, I can actually couple that, my knowledge for the psychology part, to put into my marketing specialization as well, right? So most of the students in SMU, they will do a single major and they will do 2 majors. Of course, there are no restrictions. We do have students, in fact, doing more than 2 majors, although that is relatively a little bit rare. All right, there are some students who actually do 3 majors event or even 4. But of course, we do encourage students not to do more than 2. The reason is because we want you to balance your years in SMU with other areas, such as things like global exposure, community service, and so on, which I will touch on a bit more later. Okay, but these are really exciting opportunities that we want you to explore in SMU. Right, so there is really a whole range of majors that you can look forward to, and really exciting things that you can mix and match in SMU. It's quite different. All right, this flexibility is really quite different from other universities in the sense that most other universities, they give you a prescribed set of majors that you can already take. Whereas in SMU, we believe that it's a chance for you to really explore and to discover what are your forte and what are your passion areas. So this also means that when you apply to SMU, in fact, you do not have to decide what majors you want to take. In your first year in SMU, most of the time, I would say that it's kind of like exploratory. So you will get a chance to try out major modules from the various disciplines and across all the majors as well, to really find out what are the areas that interest you and what you want to do when for your career in future. Right, so you already have plenty of chance to kind of explore before you decide what majors you want to take, essentially usually from about towards the end of your second year onwards. Okay. So these are some of the examples of some of the very exciting and popular interdisciplinary majors that our student has taken. Okay, and of course, there's a lot of really combination right now. Like we have recently introduced things like even the health economics and management, which is quite rare in Singapore. Essentially, we combine about the health sector and with economics. Okay. And of course, we get things like digital business, entrepreneurship, and so on. We also have exciting things like arts and culture management. So you want to know how to manage arts events, for example, you can take up this major, which is offered by the School of Social Sciences. All right, so these are again some of the examples. For example, if you want to be a future financial controller, you can do an accountancy degree and do a major in accounting, data analytics, and so forth. Or even, right, you're interested in criminal law, you can do, of course, law, and you can supplement your degree with a second major in psychology and so on. And of course, for students who are not law students, you have the opportunity to take law modules as well, right? In fact, you can declare law, what we call the legal studies, as a second major. So, okay, so again, like during my example earlier, I can be a marketing student, but I also do a second major in legal studies. All right, because it helps me to actually know more about the legal things like company law, intellectual property law, even the Computer Personal Data Protection Act, and so on. Okay. All right, and of course, as I mentioned, your preference comes first. In SMU, we really believe that you should really pursue something that is of interest. And our class schedule is really very flexible. Isabel can share a little bit more about her timetable later on. So this is very interesting. In SMU, we adopt this very interesting concept of bidding for classes, especially from year 2 onwards. All right, in year 1, most of your classes are kind of fixed because we don't want to frighten you so much, but it's really exciting you and to prepare you. So each module essentially can be taught by a few different professors or at different time slots. So you kind of plan your timetable in such a way that, you know, perhaps you can have a heavy day from Monday to Wednesday, and then you can leave like Thursday and Friday more for your project work and other stuff. All right, so you can really plan your timetable. And each semester, our students kind of choose their own timetable. They bid for classes, which professor they prefer to study, or which time slot they prefer to study. All right, of course, having said that, don't have to worry. In the event that you can't really get any assigned class, we'll still assign you, okay? We won't let you go through a semester without any classes. And of course, you have the flexibility of completing your degree in 3 years, 3.5 years, or 4 years. Typically, most students will take about 4 years to complete their programs, but we do have students who manage to complete their studies in 3.5 years or even 3 years. If you ask me personally, I would say that 3.5 years or 4 years will be a little bit more realistic. 3 years is possible, but that essentially means that you have to take either more modules per semester, or you probably have to miss out some of the exciting aspect of your university life. All right, like probably you can't do as many internships as you want, or you can't do exchange programs and so on. Okay, so yeah, so 3.5 years or 4 years will be a little bit more realistically, if you ask me. And of course, our student life is super vibrant, which I will not touch too much on that. I'll leave it to Isabel to share a little bit more with you later. Now, just a very quick, my time is running out a little bit, but yeah, just to share with you the freshman profile, typically what we have every year. We are still doing the 2021 admission exercise right now. We're trying to get in all the freshmen to be ready for the term that's going to start next month. But typically, most of the students will be from the School of Business Management. So the School of Business essentially makes up the highest student population. Law itself is the lowest, with about 7% typically. The reason why law is so low is because law degree in Singapore is a very controlled kind of degree. What it means by control is the Singapore government, right? Like, for example, the Ministry of Law, the Ministry of Education, controls very tightly the number of law graduates per year, right? Because these are a very niche kind of industry. So typically, of course, like, we do not want to see a particular year whereby we have too many law graduates, right? And then you end up with career issues and so on. Right? So law is a very controlled degree, hence law is definitely one of the lowest. Increasingly, information system is on the rise. The student population is kind of increasing because more and more students are really getting excited and want to come on board to know more about IT. Yeah, because especially now everything is going on cyber, right? I mean, yeah, business and so on as well. And of course, our freshmen consist of students from all walks of life. They are from musicians like yourself, students who have been student leaders, dancers, sportsmen, and so forth. Okay, so truly, really exciting. Now, here comes the class. Now, in SMU, we do not have your class, or rather, we do not have lecture system. Right, when you come to SMU, your lessons are conducted what we call seminar style. So essentially, it's like a small classroom kind of style. So if you look at this photograph, it's not Photoshop. All our seminar rooms are designed in such a way to facilitate a lot of interactive discussion. So what this means that before you go for your classes or your seminar, you do have to do a little bit of reading or preparation. And when you go into your class in the first seminar, it's a lot more of interactive, more of asking questions, more of learning from peers and from the professors. The room is really designed in such a way. The next time you have a chance to go to Singapore after this COVID, let me know, always drop by and come and take a look. No matter which part of the seminar room you sit in, everybody can see you and hear you. There's no way you can miss class, and there's no way you can fall asleep because people will know, right? And through this seminar class size, not only we build on the interactive portion of the skills, we also kind of build the warm, right, environment because everyone knows each other. Now, in fact, if you notice from the photo itself, you'll realize that there are a lot of students with name pens right in front of them. Not sure if you can notice. Typically, especially your first week when you attend class and when you meet new students, meet new peers, right, you have to prepare a name pen to be placed in front of you so that everyone knows each other. And of course, very importantly for professors to know you. Now, this built a very warm kind of and supportive environment. In SMU, you are not a nameless entity. Again, I can assure you that everyone's kind of know each other and we kind of support each other as well. Compared to the other university whereby most of the classes are via lectures, right? Whereby you see with 300 or 400 kind of students. To be honest, even if you skip class, sometimes the professor may not know. But that at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, which is really a more kind of effective learning system, right? I mean, if you want to take the easy way out of going for a lecture, miss classes, that of course is fine. But then is that really how you want to spend your time? When you have just about another 3 to 4 years in the university, okay? Okay, I wouldn't touch too much on that, but this is part of the SMU core curriculum. Essentially, what this means is, besides taking on modules, all right, that's related to your degree itself, we have this thing called the SMU core curriculum, which also exposes you, all right, to many different other areas. All right, so for example, even as a student, business student, or even as a law student, you have to know basic skills, mathematics skills like calculus. You need to know statistics, right? Like whether you are doing law, you're doing social science. Research and all this and studies in future definitely requires you to have some kind of statistic knowledge as well. Okay, we'll prepare you like things like critical thinking, leadership, and so on. And of course, you have things, other modules that you can take like artificial intelligence, society, digital media, and so on. Right. So these are many kind of modules that typically the students can get to choose in this core curriculum. More importantly, at the end of the day, when you graduate from SMU, not only with the degree that you have of the disciplinary knowledge that you have from the degree, we want you to have a multidisciplinary knowledge, right? The intercultural understanding and sensitivity, and more importantly, things like critical thinking and problem solving as well. And of course, we have this exciting thing called the SMUX. Now, SMUX typically is like a real industry project whereby students from the different discipline, regardless what degree you're doing, you come together to work on a real industry problem, right? And when you're doing this project, not only you'll be supervised by the SMU professors, you will also be supervised by the industry partners as well. Right, and to date, this SMUX project has been really very successful. We have already collaborated with more than 450 industry partners. And not only on that, if you have a chance to go and Google SMUX later on, you realize that there are really many local Singapore newspaper articles that also praise the effectiveness of this SMUX program. And what this means is, again, we don't want to prepare our students just in the classroom environment. We really want to expose you to how to apply what you have learned in the seminar to real world problems. We all know that the world is evolving and pacing at such a fast rate, right? Everything is changing so fast. Like COVID, 2-3 years ago, it started happening. Suddenly at the snap of fingers, something just happened. So we want you to really experience, in that case, how do you use your knowledge that you have learned or acquired? How do you apply to real world problems that currently the world is facing right now? And in fact, I have heard from my students, at the end of it, for your SMUX project, you have to do presentation as well to the industry partners, and they'll give the comments. And some of them even bring it back to their companies or organization for implementation to really see the results of the SMUX, right? And of course, for those who have wondering who are our professors, we have talked so much about our students. Our professors, in fact, are ranked being among the top scientists in the world as researchers as well by a global study by Stanford Universities. Okay, so our Professor Provost, Professor Timothy Clark, has identified that our researchers have already gained knowledge, right, in the global world as well. Okay, for those who are a little bit concerned about ranking, again, ranking I would think is a pinch of salt, but for those who are really kind of wonder, SMU, yes, we are also being ranked like the 12th worldwide in the QS ranking. When you're looking at the QS ranking, we are actually under this specialist university. Unlike some of the other universities in Singapore, we are not a comprehensive university. What this means is because in SMU, we do not have programs like engineering, we do not have medicine and so on. Right? Hence, for that reason, SMU is being grouped under the specialist universities. But similarly, we are being ranked by the other kind of ranking systems as well. Okay. Now I'll touch a little bit something that is a little bit more interesting now, so much more academics, right? So in SMU, student life is super vibrant. Okay, I can tell you that students do really study hard. Okay, times can get stressful at times, right? But in a way, I'm really impressed at how students also manage to balance their life in the university with a really vibrant student life. Like we have more than 120 student clubs and CCAs to actually help you to build a community and to network with students. So okay, with your peers. So throughout the years, in fact, there are many different student events. Okay, even like arts festival, like even we have this event called Vivace and so on. We even have an international community in SMU, like called the SMU Icon, stand for International Connection, that makes our students from not only from Singapore, of course, and also from students who are from all the different nationalities. And in particular, we have also a Filipino club that is in SMU. We call it SMU Bakara, right? And every year they organize many different programs. And especially for students who are new to Singapore, you don't have to worry, okay? Your seniors will be there ready to protect and to guide you to how to adapt into the life in Singapore, okay? All right, and then of course, as international students, we know that finding accommodation in Singapore could be quite challenging sometimes. So we do have accommodation that you can apply for. So we have this thing called the Prince Up Street Residences that is just about 5 to 10 minutes walk away from the campus, right? And then you can apply. And campus life is really vibrant. So I'm going to flash with you to you some of these photographs taken by our students at PSR. So it's really to so-called promote communal living as well, whereby you get to meet students from the other countries, as well as students from Singapore and so on. Okay, and there we get to work and play, study together. Even students sharing cooking skills, and so on. Okay, there are single rooms and there are twin sharing rooms. Most of the rooms are twin sharing because we want to encourage students to kind of interact with one another, right? And of course, staying in hostel is not just closing yourself to the four walls, right? We want you to really go out and meet people as well. So most of the rooms actually are twin sharing. And the benefit of having a twin sharing room is also that you kind of split the accommodation costs. Single sharing room is actually more expensive a little bit, but for twin sharing room, you can split the cost, okay? And of course, we have a student child lounge. Many times, our students also organize activities for the students also. Okay, we have the dining hall, we have the hub, and of course, we have various sports facilities. We even have a rooftop deck for social gatherings, right? Okay, now here I'll talk a little bit more quickly about the global exposure programs that we have. Typically, most of our students will get to go out of SMU to explore different cultures and different university, in fact. So most of the time we have things like study missions, whereby your school will organize trips to visit companies overseas. And of course, we have partnership with a lot of university, more than 200 over university globally. So you can go for your student exchange for one term in any of the university in the world, right? Be it Japan, Korea, US, Australia, or even if you want to do an exchange with another university in Singapore, that's also possible. Now, of course, I do know that because of COVID right now, most of our students cannot travel overseas, but I do understand from some of the students, in fact, they have online exchange as well, okay? So meet students from other universities. And of course, we have things like internships. I'll touch a little bit more later on. And we have things like, of course, the SMUX project, which some of the projects are conducted overseas, and you can do your community service overseas as well. But again, because of COVID right now, most of these programs are currently being conducted in Singapore itself. But as soon as we are all allowed to travel and borders restrictions are lifted, all of us can start traveling and embark on the exchange programs again. Okay? And the best thing is for exchange programs, it's a guaranteed opportunity. In other words, if you want to do an exchange program, it's definitely you'll get one of the university of your choice. Okay. And of course, we want our students to meet many different cultures and be global citizens, not just know about Singapore, but to know the other experience, other cultures as well. And this is another very important part of aspect of SMU. We want to develop really your hard skills, hard as in your heart. We don't want to have graduates that are just full of knowledge. But importantly, I think now, especially with the world that's changing so fast, and we have things like even like environmental issues on, we really need people who has the heart for the society, for the world, and for the environment. So yeah, and that's why in SMU, things like community service is actually compulsory. You have to fulfill at least 80 hours of community service in SMU before you can graduate, right? But I can assure you that don't be put off by the 80 hours. Is in fact, most of the students on average clock more than 100 hours easily, yeah, right? Okay, so again, just to share very quickly some of the universities that I have mentioned earlier, some of our students went for exchange program, right, in the America, Europe, Asia, and so on. And increasingly, actually, a lot of students are going to US and Japan, I mean, before the COVID as well, yeah. Okay, you have the global immersion, innovation immersion programs, whereby we allow you to do a child-free internship with another startup company overseas. And the best part of it, if you're part of this program, all your overseas expenses are being paid for. Okay. Here again, study missions, which I've already covered earlier. We'll just quickly go through. All right, this is the part about community service. Yeah, typically, each student will do more than 80 hours, I can assure you. And in fact, right now, based on our statistics, all our students have already clocked in more than 2.5 million hours in total of community service, right? Be it in Singapore or be overseas. Now, okay, again, just give me another 5 more minutes very quickly. Now, in SMU, we prepare you for your career as well. So the moment on the very first day when you join SMU, in fact, you get to meet your career counselor. We have a career center, right, whereby they will organize very frequently industry talks and assign you a career coach. Okay, and you'll be doing this thing called the Finishing Touch program. So what is this Finishing Touch program? Basically, these are workshops that you take throughout your 4 years in SMU. Things like how do you dress for interviews, how to prepare for your resume, how do you dress, how do you eat, your dining etiquette, and so on. Right. So these are all the different kind of workshops that is part of the Finishing Touch program. Right. And of course, internships in SMU is compulsory. Minimally, you need to complete at least 10 weeks, right, of internship before you graduate. Right. Again, I think you cannot skip. Right. But internship, I can assure you, is really very exciting. Right. Okay, so these are the Finishing Touch program workshops that I have mentioned earlier. So you have things like the interview skills, career planning, and so on, right? It's super interesting because especially our first year, when you do things like self-discovery, you'll be doing like personality tests, Myers-Briggs, and so on, to really find out what kind of person you are. And from there, actually, it kind of give you an idea, not only your personalities, but what kind of career may actually suit you next time. And this actually kind of help you to shape what majors that you want to take and what kind of career planning you want to pursue henceforth. Okay. And of course, you have things like internships. You have to finish 10 weeks. Most of the students will do their internship during a summer break, but there are students who take their leave of absence for 1 term to pursue internships as well. So these are actually possibilities, right? And again, internships are very, very important because studies have shown, I'll skip this a little bit, studies have shown that our students, all right, in fact, enjoy the strongest employment outcomes in Singapore, even stronger than the graduates from other universities in Singapore. The reason is because not only we have very strong industry collaborations, but also because of internships and so on, right? Based on the graduate employment survey conducted by the Ministry of Education in Singapore, 7 out of every 10 graduates, in fact, they already secured an employment before graduation. And 1 out of every 2 students, in fact, they receive more than 2 job offers. And the best thing is SMU graduates enjoy the highest starting pay, okay, in Singapore as well. On the average higher starting pay, even compared to the other graduates from the other universities in Singapore. Okay. And very quickly, this is to show you, although we are a specialist university, our students do get employed across a variety, okay, of industries. So not only they go to arts, entertainment, they also do things like land transport, they go to maritime, even healthcare, and so forth. All right. Okay, I will touch very quickly on about admissions. So typically, for admission process, we will look at a few areas. Of course, things like your academic achievements, all right, things like your Philippines high school diploma, your IB grades, and so on. And of course, more importantly, if whoever who are shortlisted during the admissions process, you go through an interview with our professors as well. And this is a time whereby you get to talk to the professors to find out a bit more about your interests and so on. Okay, so this is typically how our application period looks like. For those who are going to graduate next year, okay, typically we open our portal for application from October, mid-October onwards, all the way to middle of March the following year. All right. And thereafter, you will have things like Discovery Day, you have things like open house and so on. And for whoever who are being shortlisted, we'll invite you to come and attend an interview, most of the time between March to May, or sometime even stretches to June. Right. And then thereafter that, before the term starts, before August, we'll give you an offer if you're selected. Okay. All right. And with that, that comes to the end of my presentation. All right. Okay, I overrun a lot of my time. I'm so sorry. So without much further ado, I'll now pass it over to Isabel first. Isabel will share a little bit more about her student experience in SMU. Okay, Isabel, over to you.
Okay, sure. Sorry, is there an okay, yeah, let me just share my screen real quick. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Okay, so hi guys, I'm Isabel. I'm an incoming fourth-year student at SMU. Oh shucks, it was. Hold on, give me a second. So I'm an incoming fourth-year student at SMU. So I'm from the Philippines also. I went to ICA for my grade school and high school, and then I actually did a year of university at UP Diliman and before going to SMU. So I'm currently doing a major in operations management and then a second major in public policy and public management. Okay. Sorry, give me a second. Oh, and as I'm talking along the way, if you have any questions about anything I say, just feel free to leave it in the comments and I will respond. Does SMU require an English proficiency test like IELTS? For me personally, I took the SAT. So that's what I submitted it to SMU.
Okay, maybe while Isabel is getting ready her slides. Okay, so I'll answer that question for Carla as well. Just add on to it. Okay, with the exception, unless you're if you're from the IB program, all right, you are doing the IB diploma program, there is no need to do any standardized test like IELTS or TOEFL. All right, but if you are applying, usually like the Philippines high school diploma, for example, in that case, you will need to supplement your application with one of the standardized tests like IELTS, TOEFL, SAT. We also accept ACT and C1 Advanced as well, right? So these are the tests that we kind of accept in addition to your diploma. Right. For those who are doing the IB, you do not have to provide this. But of course, if you have taken SAT, you have taken IELTS, and you feel that that will boost your application, you're more than welcome to submit it to us as well. Okay.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so I can just start. So like I mentioned, I'm doing a major in operations management and public policy. And to be very honest, how I got here was not a smooth journey. If you're like me and you really didn't know what you wanted to study after high school, I guess that SMU is a good place for you to go because there's really a lot of flexibility in the curriculum. So within your first 2 years, you don't have to declare your major right away. So I only declared my major after sophomore year, after taking a lot of different classes and choosing between a lot of different majors that I wanted to take. So when I initially got in, I always knew I wanted to do business, but I was thinking of doing finance or marketing. And I was pretty set on doing maybe like a double major between those two. But then as I took Finance 101 and Marketing 101, I came to realize that it personally wasn't something that was a good fit for me. And it wasn't something that I wanted to do for the rest of my career. So eventually, after taking different classes and talking to different seniors and professors, I decided that operations management was something I wanted to do. And the nice thing about SMU is that even though I'm a business student, I can take a second major, like Jeffrey mentioned, from any of the other undergraduate schools. So that's how I ended up doing a second major in public policy because public policy and international relations is something that was very interesting to me. So throughout my time at SMU, I'd say I've really taken like a lot of different classes. So some people go in with a very specific vision of what they want to do. Some people I know really know that they wanted to do like the financial analytics track. So they base their curriculum around that, and they clear all of their finance classes first and leave maybe their junior and senior year to explore and take other more fun classes. But a lot of students, like myself, spent the first 2 years more of exploring and seeing what was out there, and actually how I would fit into this major and how it aligned with my career interests and things like that. So here are just some of some pictures from my student life here at SMU. So like Jeffrey mentioned, there's an international community here in SMU called International Connections. So in my first 2 years at SMU, I was pretty active with them. Upper right photo is me at the annual Icon Camp, which is an orientation camp that students organize every year for the incoming freshmen who are from many different parts of Asia. So it's pretty fun because we just go around Singapore doing different activities, and we actually used to sleep over in school, and it used to be a 3-day overnight camp back when people could still travel and meet up in person. So unfortunately, that's not a thing anymore, but I know that the Icon Camp subcommittee is working very hard to make sure that it's a similar experience online. And then these are also just some pics with Barcada, which is the Filipino club at SMU. So that's me with the executive committee. So all of us were from Manila, and it's honestly just a really good support system whenever we get homesick or whenever we wanna go to Lucky Plaza and eat Filipino food and things like that. And so aside from having a lot of school sanctioned events, we also hang out a lot by ourselves. So bottom left is actually one of our annual events called Feast of the Red Horse, as in Tandoy, yes. And we actually just dress up in different costumes, and then the winner with the best costume wins the Feast of the Red Horse. Yeah, so aside from our social gatherings and stuff, we also organize a lot of different events for the SMU community in general, so that they can know a little bit more about Filipino culture. So in the past, we've had things like movie night, and then we watch Goyo. And we also have food tours and things like that, where we bring students to eat at Jerry's Grill, just so they know a little bit more about the culture. And then aside from that, in my later years at SMU, I joined a club last year called SMU Social Impact Catalyst, which is an entrepreneurship club that aims to promote social entrepreneurship among students in SMU. So these are just some of the examples. These are just some of the events we had last year. So I was one of the business development directors. So I was in charge of liaising with different external professionals and making sure that we could have different training events for our students and different opportunities like networking nights or different webinars, just so our members could see more about like the different landscape of social entrepreneurship in Singapore or even beyond in the region. So here's an example of an event we had last year. So we had a webinar series featuring different trends in social entrepreneurship, and we were really lucky because since everything was online, we were really able to get a wide variety of speakers. So some of our speakers were running social enterprises in Cambodia, even though they were from France. And then some people were doing local things here in Singapore, and some were based in Singapore, but they were doing things like providing water filters for different countries around Southeast Asia, which is really cool to learn about. And then bottom left would just be a picture of some of our training sessions.